Hey guys, it's Nikki. Welcome back to another song review, and happy Mother's Day if you celebrate. Today is Mother's Day when I'm recording this. Hopefully you see it today. You never know with YouTube. But today we're going to be listening to Metallica's For Whom the Bell Tolls. It was the winner of last week's poll. I'll pop it in here for you to see. And this specific performance is from August 31st, 1985 at Day on the Green in Oakland, California. And you guys know I love Metallica. I'm a big fan. So I know this song. However, I don't think I've ever seen a performance with Cliff as the bass player. I started getting into Metallica when Rob was in the band, and I've seen past performances with Jason, but I don't think I've ever seen Cliff. So that's what's going to be, aside from the performance, just seeing him with Metallica, that's going to be a first for me too. So let's pop our headphones on, turn it up. I know what you're thinking. She calls herself a Metallica fan, right? And here we go.
All know Cliff Burton over here. Everyone, hi Cliff, how you doing?
Banging already. This part of the song. So heavy. You barely see his face with whipping his head around so much. Definitely the oldest performance I've ever seen then. Crazy. The guitar like a drum. The youngest I've ever seen Metallica is this performance with you guys. That's really fun. So going into this, I asked my husband, who's like the ultimate Metallica fan, where would you put Cliff on like energy level? Because Rob is a lot more calm than Jason was. Like even with the vocals, like sometimes you can't even hear him where Jason would be screaming. And he said he would put Cliff kind of in the middle of those two energies. And I can see that just from this performance. I don't know. I could watch more. But yeah, I don't think he's as crazy high energy from the performances I've seen with Jason, but he also has a lot more energy than Rob does. So I would say that too. But let me scooch over and read a little bit about Cliff and how he got to be a part of Metallica. So on loudwire.com, it says in November of 1982, Trauma traveled to Los Angeles to perform at the Whiskey A Go Go Club on the now infamous Sunset Boulevard. There's Wolfie. The area was also home to many aspiring thrash bands, but it existed in the shadow of the dominant force on the strip at the time, hair metal. In attendance that night were Metallica's ironclad duo, James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich. Burton's extraordinary talents were obvious to those in the room, spurring Hetfield and Ulrich to make a personnel change and convince Burton to join their band. It took some time, and after Burton persuaded Metallica to relocate from Los Angeles to San Francisco, he became an official member before the year was over. That's pretty crazy if they just saw him in a band and he convinced them to come to Los Angeles. March 5th, 1983, he played his first show with Metallica at the Stone in San Francisco. Oh, there's a video. Oh, it's audio only. But I would still check that out. See, that's what I always wonder what happens in that situation, because it's like you're part of a band. Like, is the band that close to just falling apart anyway that you can be like, okay, I heard of Metallica, I'm just going to go with them now? You know, I don't know. I don't know the story behind it, but I'm not finding too much about his previous band. Now, going back to Jason, I see here that it says after Cliff Burton's death, Jason Newsted replaced him as a bassist of Metallica, and Newsted joined the band in October 1986, a month after Burton's passing. I didn't know it was that quick. That's kind of crazy. But then on the topic of his passing, this is from ultimateclassicrock.com. It says Metallica were on top of the metal world in 1986, having just signed their first major label deal and releasing their commercial breakthrough album. But the band's year ended with a crushing blow after bassist Cliff Burton died in a bus accident while touring overseas. I knew some of these details, but I will read them a little bit just in case you might not. On the night of September 26, 1986, Metallica was traveling between tour dates in Sweden when Burton and guitarist Kirk Hammett drew cards to decide who would get to choose a bunk. The bassist drew the ace of spades and chose the bunk Hammett had been occupying. I said, "Fine, take my bunk," the guitarist recalled in VH1's Behind the Music. "I'll sleep up front. It's probably better anyway." In the early morning hours of September 27th, 1986, shortly before 7 a.m., the band members were awakened abruptly when the bus began to careen from side to side. The driver later told authorities that he lost control of the bus after hitting a patch of black ice. The bus left the road and flipped over on its side, and Burton, who had been asleep in the preferred top bunk, was thrown through the window. As the bus came down, it landed on top of the 24-year-old musician. Reportedly, attempts were made to rescue him from underneath the bus by lifting it with a crane, but the crane slipped and the bus crashed down on top of Burton a second time. I didn't know that. Band members and onlookers have given different accounts of whether Burton died upon first impact or when the bus came down again, but the promising young star died at the scene. Oh my gosh. Metallica frontman James Hetfield has said that he walked up and down the road in his socks and underwear looking for black ice and found none, and the musicians have speculated off and on over the years about whether drinking or drugs could have played a role in the accident, or whether the driver fell asleep at the wheel. An investigation cleared the driver of any wrongdoing. Burton was cremated and his ashes were scattered at the Maxwell Ranch in California. Metallica's Orion was played at the ceremony, and lyrics from To Live Is to Die are engraved upon his memorial stone. "Cannot the kingdom of salvation take me home?" Former Metallica guitarist Dave Mustaine wrote Megadeth's In My Darkest Hour after hearing of Burton's death, and fellow thrash pioneers Anthrax dedicated their Among the Living album to him. It says he was also inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on April 4th, 2009 as a member of Metallica. I didn't know the second part where they tried to lift the bus up and it fell on him again. That is terrible. And also the fact that they debated on who got that bunk. Like, literally the night before. That is eerie to me. I mean, I know things happen just how they happen, and there's no rhyme or reason to that kind of thing going wrong, but that would just be really crazy to think about, because I guess it was James. It was his bunk, the day before this, from my understanding. So that would just be a lot of mental stuff, I think, to deal with as a band member as well, and just having that happen. But man, that's crazy. And like I said, some of that I already knew. I didn't know all the details. I didn't know about the crane trying to get him out. But that's that story of like them switching bunks that always blows my mind. And it's just, like I said, it's just eerie to think about. But with all that being said, if there's any other performances with Cliff that you think I should check out, let me know. And let me know if you were a fan of Metallica when Cliff was still in the band, or were you like me and didn't really listen to them until later on. Like I said, I started listening. Well, Hardwired was really like the first Metallica album that I got into. Like that was the first time they released an album when I was a fan. So that's kind of when I got into them. I mean, obviously I knew certain songs that were, singles or bigger songs for them, but that was the first album for me that I joined in on with all of the already existing Metallica fans. So let me know where you fall into the fandom. Is that the word I'm looking for? I don't know, but I will end this one here. As always, thank you guys so much for watching along with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.